Welcome to another live broadcast with Project Control Academy. Very honored to have you joining us in this great session packed with insightful knowledge and future readiness. I hope you're excited as much as I am. About me, I am Shora Gorbani, the founder and technical director of Project Control Academy, which is the leading global provider of training programs in project controls. And today we are going to talk about a very important and hot topic about digital transformation in projects. So basically, how you can set up digital transformation and how to implement that in your programs and projects. So it's going to be a very insightful session. I hope you are excited for what we are going to cover in today's session. But before we get started, please go ahead in the chat, introduce yourself, tell us who you are, from which country you are tuning in, and what you are going to what your intention is, what you would like to learn from today's session that we have together. So please go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. Also, may I ask for a favor? Please make sure that you repost this live stream, this post with your connection so others can join in and benefit from this conversation that we have today as well. And throughout the conversation, if you have any question about any of the topics that we have, please have them coming so that we can cover your questions. Again, these LinkedIn Live, which is now broadcasted to Facebook and YouTube, are meant to serve you and add value to you and help you in your journey. So if you have any question, this is your session to get help from an expert. So let's see who is here. I see some comments coming here. I see Tarek joining us. Hello, Tarek. Welcome to the session. We have Mubarak joining us. Hello, Mubarak. Tarek said from Sudan is joining us. And Mohammed is from UAE. Norman joining us from United Kingdom. Thanks for joining us. We also have Rabah from Algeria. And also we have another great candidate from Romania joining us. Looking forward to getting insight and advice on digitalization. Very glad to have you joining us, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the session. Again, we're going to have a very insightful discussion about digital transformation in projects and programs that we have. Regarding the topic of today about digital transformation, I'm sure most of you have heard about this term, digital transformation projects and programs. But what is your definition of digital transformation? Would you mind sharing in the chat what you think of digital transformation in projects and programs? What is your definition of digital transformation? And while you're typing and sharing, let me share with you my opinion about what I think digital transformation is in projects. I view digital transformation in projects as the process of incorporating digital technologies and tools to optimize and streamline our project management processes. So it basically involves leveraging technology to enhance efficiency, productivity, collaboration, and decision making. That's my definition. What is yours? What do you think digital transformation is all about? I haven't seen any comments yet, but please share in the comment again your thoughts on digital transformation, what you think it is. But as we are talking about digital transformation, the question I have also is, are we ready to embrace digital transformation in our projects? And what is the starting point in digital transformation journey? And what are the building blocks and steps toward digital transformation in projects and in our organizations? So these are some of the questions that we will explore and answer throughout this session together with my honored guest who has been involved in digital transformation setup and implementation in projects. So who can better open up this topic than my guest speaker today? About our speaker for today, which I'm honored to introduce as the Director and Head of Program Advisory and Townsend Business Unit in Saudi Arabia. His focus is on the setup and transformation of businesses and investment programs through digital solutions. So it's truly an honor to have Adrian Predoi joining us today. Please help me give a warm welcome to Adrian to join this virtual stage. Welcome, Adrian, and thank you so much for joining us and sharing about the digital transformation projects.
Thank you very much, Shore. It's a pleasure. Hi everyone. I see lots of people from lots of very geographical regions joining today. We promise to share with you some thoughts and knowledge from the past experience of delivering digital controls in major programs, and we're looking forward to receiving your comments and questions. Hopefully, this will be a very much a many to few conversation where you will share your questions and we'll be happy to respond as well. Thank you again for the invite, Shore. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, Adrienne. And again, I cannot wait to get into the discussion. But before getting started, can you share with us a bit about your experience, especially when it comes to digital transformation, how you got into this field, and share a little bit more about you and your experience, Adrienne?
Yes, so I have around about 15 years of experience working in the major program space, primarily for consultancy businesses, working both on private and public engagements with varied clients around the world. I've been with Turner and Townsend for the last 6 years of my career, 5 of these in the UK, where I've led our controls and performance service unit part of program advisory. And as you've rightfully said earlier on, I've recently joined the KSA, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Riyadh, to head our program advisory business unit. The program advisory business unit, just to make sure that everybody understands the context, it is about the strategy and setup of major programs and investment programs. Now, due to the fact that we're looking at it from a Saudi Arabia perspective, these are obviously the majority of them are classed as giga projects. The premise is that the setup of it comes through four lenses. There's the strategy and transformation, which actually follows through any improvement that we do, whether it's at a business level wide or if it's a program, strategic program improvement, managing the benefits, managing that process of transformation to get the client into a better end state, which is then supported by what we would call three more technical services that make up a full proposition. One of it being controls and performance, which obviously focuses on the setup of the PMO and or the program controls functions, and as well the digital transformation that comes with it, bringing to life a digital first principle in the way we approach major program setup, and then complementing that with program integration, which really follows through with the governance, with the assurance frameworks, with the integrated life cycles, and bringing that level of integration across the program. And last but not least, the organizational effectiveness side of things, which focuses on the people, the capability, and ensuring that we create a human centric approach to every transformation that we do. So these are some of the, let's say, the unpacking of program advisory through these four lenses, but I'm sure we'll cover some more in the next minutes.
That was a lot, Adrian, but thank you so much. That's great. Very, very, very great that you are really involved in digital transformation and doing a lot. Just curious, out of curiosity, I remember you've been mainly in the UK and working there for a while. What made you to move to kind of Middle East and Saudi Arabia, and what have you found the appetite of digital transformation over that region?
So it is probably a twofold set of elements. The first one would be the fact that we always wanted to transition program advisory onto various hubs and create, based on our blueprint, various iterations of program advisory services. The market in Saudi Arabia is truly booming. I mentioned earlier on about the giga projects. These are projects that will change not only how Saudi Arabia is viewed as a country and as well the whole of the Middle East, but it will really become a blueprint for how giga projects are dealt with across the world. These are truly monumental and life-changing experiences, and we wanted to be at the forefront of that. What better opportunity than to set up these giga projects and actually put the digital first principle to good use, and also bring digital transformation as let's say a service lens to support turning what I like to call data into actionable intelligence that then will enable obviously insightful performance reporting and further that decision making process journey that all stakeholders really want to embark on with the safety and assurance that they can make the decisions on the back of the right data.
That's great. Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. So we are really excited to learn about all about digital transformation from you, Adrian. So now to get started, to have everyone in the same ground, let's start with some basics and some understanding. First of all, what is program controls? And then if you can open also what digital transformation is, I appreciate it. Thank you, Adrian.
Yes, so from a program controls perspective, I think over the course of time, things have moved, and the program controls have become a broader, let's say, cumulus of functions. Obviously, stemming back from managing requirements and scope, which are quintessential for any program, be it giga, be it let's say capital program investment, and then moving forward with the schedule, cost, risk as let's say a triad of functions that need to be integrated to enable us as a whole to manage the scope, and then together with change and performance reporting to bring that to life and ensure that our performance measurement baselines are reflected of the right status quo, and also we bring then forecasting at the forefront of it to enable us not to just look backwards and understand what has happened in terms of performance, but really be able to get the periscope out for a bit of a submarine analogy, and actually look forward to understand what might happen in the future, be it from a time perspective, be it from a cost perspective. And what I've noticed lately, one of another function that has been usually added to the program controls mix is benefits management. Now, we always know that obviously we're managing requirements, we're managing the scope, which is what we actually need to deliver to ensure that those respective assets are put in place and then operated successfully. But now is more of a focus on outcomes, more of a focus on benefits. So that whole journey from the conceptual stage all the way to the operational stage is also moving the benefits management string alongside, and that is a very important function because that is how we usually judge now the success of a particular program, is whether we have achieved our benefits or not. And this could be tangible or intangible benefits for that matter. But I think program controls as a whole would be the integration of all of these functions, including benefits management, and obviously the digital transformation alongside it would enable us to understand, as I said, how we're performing and also what might happen in the future, give us those insightful elements to be able to foster the right decision making.
Great definition, Adrian. So, out of curiosity again, you talk about program control. So, we all know about project control. So, what's the difference between program control and project controls? If you don't mind opening that up for everyone so we're clear on the difference a little bit.
Of course. So, from a program perspective, you would usually have at least a couple, if not more, projects that are contributing to a greater set of benefits and goals that the program will deliver once those pieces of the puzzle get integrated and are successfully put in place. Otherwise, from a project perspective, these are endeavors that will usually obviously deliver a particular outcome or a particular set of outputs for that matter, but without having the other projects together combined to a successful outcome and integrated at the program level, the program as a whole would not reach its respective outcomes and benefits. So it's about how do you actually integrate what might seem different pieces of the puzzle in order to ensure that the program that you have to manage at the top is really delivering what it's meant to deliver in terms of outcomes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Adrian. So now let's move on to digital transformation. Can you open that up a bit for all of us? Again, it's a buzzword we hear a lot these days,
Yes.
but what is really digital transformation in your opinion, as someone who has been heavily involved in implementing digital transformation at the program level?
So I think it's all about focusing on how you can really make an impact in the programs and how these are actually changing the economic aspects, the environmental aspects, it could be the social outcomes of a particular organization. So it is bringing then the productivity gains that you would want to make, and then be able to support the execution and delivery of those different facets of outcomes. And from that point of view, it will help transform the program performance by bringing faster intelligence on the table, enabling better data assurance from that point of view. So being in a room where people are not going to be able to say, I don't recognize that number, I think that something's wrong there, because the digital transformation will cover both the quality assurance of the data at the forefront of it, but also, let's say, what will then be used as a series of key performance indicators and metrics to really be able to tell a story about the performance of that respective program at different levels and layers of the governance framework. Because what's truly important is that the digital transformation will then be able to enable each organization to slice and dice through that information, coupling the supply chain data with the internal data, and then provide, depending on the audience, be it at the board level, be it for a particular supply chain company, or even at the project and program level, the right type of metrics to be able to tell a story about the current state of the performance, and moreover, as I said, provide the insights on what might happen, be it from, as I said, the time lens, it could be a cost lens, it could be a quality lens, and any other function that is of interest within the performance reporting framework.
Adrian, but we already do performance management and measuring the project performance progress through any tool that we have at the moment. So why digital transformation? Like, can you make it clear for us? Do we need to move to our digital transformation to be able to effectively understand the project progress and
Yeah.
performance? And so, what are your thoughts on that?
It depends on where you start within what we call the initial strategy, and what's your aspiration. Maybe we'll discuss a little bit about the process later on. But the idea is that you might have different starting points within your digital transformation journey, which usually gets uncovered by what we call a digital maturity assessment. But the more complex ecosystem you have, the more data you will get, and therefore the tools that you will be using and the systems that you have in place will need to speak to one another. We'll need to create an integrated ecosystem where that data is managed in an assured fashion. So I think one of the key benefits would be managing complexity better and more efficiently, and that is what digital transformation can bring. Bring a lot more connectivity between the client and the supply chain, connectivity between different functions, for example, of a program management office, or between the program management office and the finance department or the commercial department, being able to truly integrate that whole program ecosystem and actually bring value to both the client, the supply chain, and in the end, the end user. And then speaking about the performance reporting, obviously you could do performance reporting quite as well in a spreadsheet format, needless to say. But again, playing back what I said about the complexity and then the data assurance that follows through, it would be quite difficult, for example, thinking, putting my KSA hat on, of how you would manage a giga program, that some sites are just the size of London within as a project within that program. It is a bit more of a challenge. So once you do that, you'll then be able to make quicker and better decisions, and that actually will allow you to be at the forefront of actually predicting what might happen, rather than being very reactive. One thing that I've noticed going into various capability assessments, starting from the digital lens, a lot of the clients were always faced with not enough time to make decisions. What tends to happen is that you have a reporting cycle. That reporting cycle might be maybe 2, even 3 weeks in arrears, and you'll be getting into the next reporting cycle. You'll be already in the middle of the next month, and you won't be able to digest and truly understand what the data is telling you, and basically what that actionable intelligence needs to lead you to do in terms of making the right decisions. And obviously the digital transformation can cut that reporting cycle into a more manageable time premise, and also give you the right level of intelligence to enable those assured decisions, give you enough foresight, and not just hindsight and looking back at how things will do. And in the end, that will give you more agility, be a bit more nimble, be a bit more adaptable to the various challenges that might occur, and really create an ecosystem where change is not really perceived as something onerous, is something that will happen, but because you have the right ecosystem in place and the digital first principle is applied, you are able to adapt and take care of change at the right pace and become more efficient in what you do.
Okay, great points addressed, Adrian. So, one of the things you've addressed on the benefits of digital transformation was integration, the integration
Yes.
between systems and technologies. But as you know, still to this day, integration has been quite a challenge. Each one of us are using different systems, different tools, different products, internal, external. So, how can we be ready for digital transformation with all these silo point positions that we have? If you can shed more light on that.
Yeah.
Also, we have a question from one of our attendees regarding that. Let me just highlight that here, just in regards to that. So, would you impose a standard software solution as part of the digital transformation, just one
Yes.
solution basically? At the end, the client has to agree on the output and how stakeholders want to see the progress. So, what are your thoughts on that? Again, we want to understand how digital transformation works in
Yes.
terms of integration. Is it all about technology? Is it all about integration? And how you make it happen?
Thank you for that. That's an excellent question. The first thing that I would kind of go back to is our first initial engagement with the client. Most of the times, companies will tend to go straight into what is the solution, what are the tools I need in order for me to obtain this digital transformation and really be able to get that insightful performance reporting. But that is jumping the gun a bit. What would be the best approach that would give you the right outcome towards the end of the digital transformation is to start to embark on understanding what is your vision for the digital transformation. What do you actually want to achieve, and how would you bring that digital strategy at the forefront of what you're trying to do? So every approach that we have, we engage with the C-suite team, stemming from the CEO, the CFO, maybe a chief digital officer if that's in place, together with the leads of or the heads of every function within the PMO or the finance and the commercial, sitting down at the table and actually understand what is the digital vision, where do they want to be, because there are different approaches and lenses that people can have when it comes to digital transformation, and without getting that consensus around what the end goal is, you'll be probably going maybe closer to the finance team but less close to the commercial team, maybe further away from the PMO or vice versa. If that alignment is not in place around what the end goal is, then you will most likely end up with a solution that will satisfy some but not many. And that is where the adoption of any digital transformation or any set of solution will fall apart. That is the majority of the, in majority of the cases where people have started on a particular journey, they have implemented some systems, maybe perhaps not fully integrated, and then they're asking, but why is it taking so long? Why don't I get the data that I need? Why do I see errors in the data? And that is because everybody, it was not probably aligned at the forefront of it with a vision around what they want to do and what they want to achieve. So I think that digital strategy is very, very important. Now, in terms of the solution, you mentioned technology is indeed a lens that we definitely look at, be it what we call it through the machine element, whether it's technology, data, systems from that point of view, but there's a human component to everything we do, which actually looks at the people, the capability, the actual capacity that the organization has, and also how they will be setting themselves up from an organizational design point of view to really embark on the digital transformation. Then there's another key enabler, which I'm sure you've seen many times, which would be the processes side of things. Obviously, if you want to embark on a digital transformation, but your processes are quite scarce, they're not integrated, they don't speak to one another, then you will definitely have difficulties in, you could potentially create some requirements and buy some tools, but without having the fundamental set of processes that the tools will need to replicate in order for you to get that integrated set of data, it will be quite challenging to get the successful outcome. And then the governance and assurance framework, we spoke a little bit about it earlier on. Again, is something that's paramount, and it's a great enabler because it gives you the linkage between governing, reporting, and doing change management, and then creating a level of performance assurance so that you can apply both a supply chain lens to it and understand how your supply chain is performing, but also internally to understand how the team is responding to everything that you've created, and be able to create a platform for continuous improvement. And all of these components we tend to explore in what we call the digital capability assessment, which it's a follow through from the digital vision. And these two components will then enable you to understand what's working well and what you can capitalize on in terms of strengths, but also gives you a blueprint and an indication for what are the things that you need to improve. And this could be, as I said, people, capability, culture, everything within the organizational design aspect. It could be things related to process governance and assurance, and obviously the data and systems, or the technology side of things, which will obviously need to follow through. And once you have this roadmap that will give you an ensemble of elements that you need to address, then you can think of what we call creating a target operating model. And that will say, if this is the strategy of the business and this is the strategy of what we want to do in the program from a digital transformation, it's about connecting those two strategies together to create new ways of working through a new operating model that will bring digital at the forefront of it, but obviously capitalizing on those people and processes, to put it in just two categories, and make sure that what you create is an integrated ecosystem that then has digital at the forefront of it, to only then embark on an actual transformation where you start pressing buttons and get quite technical. So I think that forefront of the strategy, vision, capability assessment, and target operating model, and the blueprint for success, which is a roadmap that you need to take forward, are really paramount elements. So that's one of the things that we've seen many times in all of the past digital transformations. The clients will always want to jump the gun a bit. Let's create some requirements. Let's go on a procurement spree and buy some tools, maybe some recommended by a company, or they say a bespoke solution that we might already have. But without having those three steps at the forefront of it, it's very doubtful that you can create something sustainable on the long run.
Wow, well said, Adrian. Thank you so much for covering all the process from the beginning to the end. Just to recap for the audience, so you mentioned for being able to kind of have embrace digital transformation, we need to assess the digital transformation enablers into several lenses. So I really like the fact that you mentioned we have to start with the vision. What is the vision? What we are trying to achieve? Then it involves the processes, people first, processes. You also mentioned about data governance. So, and also you address the assessment to see where the company is in terms of the strengths and weaknesses and how you can improve. So, very good points. So, is the starting point for digital transformation journey starts with, again, you mentioned a lot of things. It starts with that assessment for an organization to understand where we are and where we want to improve. And if that's yes, then how we can get that assessment? Is it done for your company, or is it somewhere that anyone can tap into and assess the digital transformation readiness in their projects and company? If you just share more
Yes.
information, I appreciate it.
Of course. So, from a Turner and Townsend point of view, we do have our own approach when it comes to initially the vision and the strategy, and those type of C-suite workshops that we put in place to ensure that we get that calibration between the leadership team, to get to a unified, what we call a digital model canvas. That will be, if you want a plan on a page, that will say these are the benefits that we want to achieve. These are the services that we need to continuously deliver to ensure the benefits are done. Those are our customers and interfaces that we will need to manage at the very least. And then the digital capability assessment, we do have our bespoke tools which we've developed internally. And then, as I said, those cover both the human component, which is more of the people, culture, capability, process governance and assurance aspects of it, and as well as say more the machine side of it, which is more focused on the data, the analytics, the insights, the performance management side of things, and of course the systems and tools. So there will be basically a series of questions which will be usually open-ended, that will be need to be supported and backed up by evidence that the client will need to showcase to then be able to determine whether they are at the top tier level in terms of maturity, or they are at an exceptional level in terms of maturity, and of course anything in between, to then come up with an overarching number, and then a sense of what's working well, what are the strengths and also the challenges, and that will take you into that whole thinking of these strengths we can move forward with, but those are the areas that we need to address, and therefore the roadmap for success will start to unfold and unravel. And obviously, as I said, it is a journey that the clients need to embark on. It's not an easy journey because everybody's in a rush. Everybody wants very quick results. But I think at the forefront of it, an investment of say 1 to 3 months, depending on the complexity of the organization, it obviously it could be give or take 1 or 2 months. You can really get that whole discovery element and the diagnostics put in place in the right way to really inform what your operating model would be, and then you'll be in a position to say this is a business case that we want to take forward, because in the end it's going to be about the benefits that we probably articulated a bit earlier on, that those will be the ones that will make or break the business case. But once you've articulated it in such a way that connects the strategy of the business to the program, you have the leadership team bought in, and you also have a clear digital maturity assessment which potentially has the right benchmarks against similar organizations of a similar sector, be it in utilities if you're in a utility space, or maybe you're in nuclear, or maybe you're in a corporate development developer real estate space. That will really give you an informed opinion on where you're at against other companies, obviously maintaining any and the required anonymity, but gives you a sense of where you're at on your journey versus people that are your peers, or potentially companies that you look up to and aspire to surpass. And that gives everyone an incentive to really be bought in when we speak about the digital transformation, and not be in that kind of half mode way of should we go for it, would it be an investment, is it worth it. And that actually creates a solid business case that once you're bought in, then you can start delivering and bring that digital transformation to life.
That's great insights you've shared, Adrian. So I'm curious to know, like with any new thing that we introduce to an organization or to our project, there is a natural procrastination, and people don't want to go through that change, especially when we are talking about such a massive digital transformation across the organization. So how do you deal with people and the culture in the organization to make sure that the steps that you mentioned, like from the assessment to understanding the benefits and trying to sell that to the upper management, how do you think it will be reinforced through the bottom and everyone will be bought into that? Because again, getting the buy-in is important to have that going through the implementation process. But how do you make everyone come on board in terms of this digital transformation and the benefits that it will have for them, because initially it will create a lot of work for them, right?
It's an excellent question, and obviously the change management aspects of it is what we see a very personal journey for every individual in the business. So our approach is always focused on that particular individual with its particular role. If you speak to a project manager, they might be interested in certain aspects of the digital transformation. If you're going to speak to maybe a cost controller or a project planner or a commercial director, they might have different insights and different needs. And the way you would actually encourage them to embark on that journey with you is by sharing with them what will be the benefits that they will receive, but not in a general premise, but through the lens of their role. And this is what we've seen. It is really quite effective to then be able to, first of all, listen to the individual from its project manager role or cost controller role or commercial director, or be it any other role within that program space, understand them, their challenges and concerns, and then be able to explain to them what the digital transformation will do, but how in the sense of how would they improve their or day-to-day job. So I think that is a fundamental piece. And then once they see that there is a certain thinking behind it that will enable not just a vanilla layer of benefits that will say the company will do great, we will all have fantastic productivity, our ROI will grow, or we will reduce, the reporting cycle by 20%, without making those, let's say, overarching benefits, translating them into actual outcomes for the, in a way, the users, the from the internal organization. Is a very difficult sell to do. So that is our approach. And then obviously, as any change management process, over the course of time, from the moment of, in a way, denial, oh no, we have a digital transformation on our hands, what are we going to do, there will be a smoother journey that they will embark on to try and look to adopt, and for them to play a particular role, whether they might end up being a super user, or there might be just a beneficiary of a report that's extracted from that digital transformation solution. So it's about translating everything into words that those respective individuals, through their roles, will understand.
Okay, great, Adrian. I really like what you said, vanilla benefits. Like, no, no, don't go at that high level and just try to have tangible benefits so that you can get the buy-ins. Well said. We have a question from Donata, one of our audiences.
Yes.
Can you share a case study, Adrian, where you could approach and overcome client resistance to digital transformation? So, if you can share some
Yes.
examples, that would be great.
One of the most recent ones we've done was with a large pharmaceutical business, and it was a digital transformation, from a global lens. They had offices in Australia, they had offices in Europe and in the US, and they wanted to embark on a digital transformation, where they would have three pilot projects done at the same time. And when I say pilot projects, basically the selection of their top program in each of those respective continents as being set up to take on that digital transformation, and then being able to roll out, and continue all of the reporting and the flux of information live within the respective digital transformation. And one of the things that was probably an initial challenge is the fact that once you're working in such a diverse environment, and I mean diverse, looking initially, say for example, just through the lens of the geographical arena, the European individuals might come at it and approach, let's say, the problem solving as such an intensive transformation in a different way than what North American people would do, or what potentially Australian people would do. So for us, it was very important to try and understand how we can breach that gap, and really make sure that from a cultural diversity point of view, we can explain and also be able to adapt the way we take them on that journey, depending on how would they best respond. And to tell a funny story, one of the colleagues that was the digital implementation lead in Europe, was engaging with one of the European headquarters in Germany for the client, and explaining a bit about the process is one of the first, say, kickoff meetings. Obviously, noticing that the client was also explaining a bit to the middle management, but because some of the words and the nuances in English sounded a bit more difficult to comprehend, they turned into German, obviously, which is their native language. But luckily, the digital transformation lead that we had on that respective role, through his past experience and education, he actually knew German. So he started to converse with the people in German. And you can imagine, after a bit of a chuckle and a few laughters, oh, I can't believe you speak German, type of thing, that actually managed to smooth the curve immensely. And for example, that European pilot project actually came to life really, really well. Maybe I would say on a smoother journey, dare I say, than the other two regions. And maybe just that little thing, which was slightly, let's say, the familiarity with the language, the fact that you could potentially bring a bit of a cultural smoother approach to that will people understand and would appreciate, actually helped land it very, very well. So it's about how do you manage that diverse environment, be inclusive in what you do, and then be able to take people on the journey and also be able to adapt as you go along, because you never know. Maybe you don't hit it home in the first iteration, but one of our key aspects from a management consulting standpoint is being able to roll with the punches, be able to listen, do that active listening, act with empathy, and also be able to address their concerns in a way that they would actually be able to understand, and therefore take them on that journey.
Very well said, Adrian. Just for the benefit of the audience and another who asked a question about the case study on digital transformation, I just wanted to mention at Project Control Summit next week, we actually have one presentation on exactly the same question that you had, Danada, on the application
Yeah.
of digital transformation in New York Port Authority. So the speaker, Sadia, is going to share how they have done that within the organization and at that company. So make sure that you tune in next week at Project North Summit. So in addition to that, we also have a panel discussion on digital transformation and also several technology panels. So there's going to be a lot of discussion regarding digital transformation. So if anyone is interested, we have several sessions at the conference. But going back to the discussion, Adrian, I see a follow-up question, and that was actually my question too in regards to the challenges and the obstacles, especially from the client side or from like it's really good on the surface, but in the implementation, it's really not easy. It's hard. It's a lot of people, as you said, people and processes that will be heavily involved. So, first of all, how do you justify the ROI, return on investment? You kind of addressed that, but it's a big
Yes.
investment, I assume. So, how do you justify that? And also, if you can share some of the challenges faced in digital transformation journey. I appreciate that. Let me highlight Sarah's question in that regard. So,
Yes.
what is the biggest blocker of successful digital transformation, client constraint, and other things that you have experienced throughout this journey? So, we appreciate if you just give us a heads up so we know.
So I would say from a blocker standpoint, there will be probably three challenges that truly come to mind. First of all, clients will never tend to truly commit if they're not really bought into what it can do for them. And now we spoke about ROI earlier, and it is something indeed challenging to bring into a monetary, let's say, form, in terms of benefit. But it is something that we've looked at doing both from a tangible and intangible perspective. So just to play back one of the business cases we've done on the back of creating that vision, that digital capability assessment, and bringing that operating model, that and in the end had a business case attached to it, that brought to life a series of tangible and intangible benefits. So a tangible benefit could be linked into how the different functions would actually operate in an integrated way, how you would manage to bring the supply chain along that journey. And for example, instead of sharing a vast volume of reports flowing from the supply chain into the client environment, they would actually be able to share only data which will be preset and predefined in a certain format. So therefore, there will not be a flux of actually metrics that will be coming from the supply chain, but just data that's curated and assured, so that we can, as a client, be able to understand what that data is telling us from the supply chain, and then be able to roll it up as we want at the project, program, and for example, board level. So that is a truly tangible benefit that then you can see migrated in the commercial arrangements, in the sense that instead of having employer requirements from an NEC terminology, or let's say contract requirements from more of a FIDIC terminology, instead of asking for, can you give me a report that would contain health and safety indicators, or I want to see earned value management, or I want to see this, you would just resume on providing a certain set of data. And then that will actually be a huge game changer, because it will then go into the reduction of the reporting cycle. It will give far more confidence both to the supply chain and as well to the client, that we are managing a relationship where the supply chain is collaborating and they're becoming a partner rather than a service provider, which is a really big mental shift that a lot of companies and in general in the construction industry need to go through, because it's not just about the service that you provide, it's about a partnership where you together are delivering something. It could be a set of assets, it could be an end goal to the end users, irrespective of the industry that you're working on. So I think that that is an immense, let's say, challenge that you can surpass from that point of view. And one of the last things that I think would be very important to understand is that once you are able to integrate the supply chain into the organization, you will create lots of synergies that will then actually flow upwards into the board level. And actually, if you're in a public organization perspective, would actually bring lots of benefits on the long run to the end users, and actually create a sustainable integrated platform where the data flows from the supply chain upwards in a seamless fashion.
Thank you so much for opening that up for us and kind of addressing some challenges on digital transformation. Now, let's go back to the journey of implementation. Adrian, you shared with us the starting point by understanding the vision and doing those assessment and getting the buy-in. So, after you have the buy-in, what's next? What is the journey into the successful implementation? And I think that's aligned with one of
Yes.
our one of the questions here. So no, I think that was another one. Yeah, one of the audience also asked this question: what is the successful journey to have that digital transformation implementation in our projects and programs? Adrian.
So going flowing quickly back through the vision, the capability assessment, the operating model, and that blueprint for success, which actually has the benefit, the business case attached to it. Once you have that business case approved, you are getting into the actual execution of the digital transformation. And two things that I would like to mention. There are probably two routes that you could end up taking. There are companies such as ours as well that could come in with a predefined solution of trialed and tested integrated systems, which we have done, that you could be in a way plug and play. You will be getting the requirements, getting the data, and creating into that ecosystem that's already preset with those established tools, a managed service, if you will, where the client is potentially paying a fee to the consultant, and the consultant is, if you want, the curator of that respective data, and provides that client with the insightful information. That's number one. Another route would be the client saying, you know what, I want to start from scratch. So I know I have a few systems. Maybe I might have, I don't know, a planning system. It might be Microsoft Project Primavera. Doesn't matter exactly which brand. They might have a finance system, and maybe nothing else in the mix. Well, the premise would be, in order for us to create an integrated environment, would be to try and understand what are the requirements that the client has. And those requirements, that requirements gathering stage, it is truly paramount. And because that will actually enable the procurement process to start flowing. And if they want to have basically an open procurement where, let's just say, they want to digitalize fully the program control, so that means managing planning, managing cost, managing risk, managing change, managing performance intelligence through performance management through potentially a business intelligence tool, then that means all of those initial requirements will need to be truly listed down and prioritized as well. Because as it will happen, once you start the procurement process, and that scope of work with the requirements will flow into the bidding format, where different software vendors can actually read them, understand them, reply what they can or cannot do on them, and then you'll be able to rate them. The prioritization aspect of it will really be effective. And now what I've seen, that there's a lot more focus on the technical rather than commercial, and maybe that will be a bit of a shocker to some of the audience, perhaps even for you, Shore. But I think people are far more now focused on ensuring that when it comes to integration, they can actually get the right type of caliber in terms of the technical requirements that need to be managed. Obviously, the commercial aspects, don't get me wrong, are going to be important, But I think if the solution really provides and speaks to the business case that was done, it will be a great incentive to start off. And then obviously once you have the procurement process concluded and you've rated, you've based on potentially a prioritized rating system, of course, that will take into account technical aspects, delivery, implementation timeline, maybe maintenance and support, and of course the commercial aspects. There could be other criteria that will be taken into account. You will then end up, after having also a series of demos with those respective vendors, you will end up with the predefined vendors. And then our role would be as an integrator to bring all of those vendors together, to actually create an integrated environment that would most likely, from a technical perspective, in the end up with a database which we call a data warehouse, that will actually receive feeds from different files that the client already has. It might be even flat files, it might be existing systems. We spoke about potentially a finance system and maybe a planning system, and then maybe those new companies that might have come with a cost system or maybe with a risk system and maybe with a business intelligence tool, will then be able to create that integrated ecosystem from the data warehouse where everything will be put under scrutiny and curated. You will then have what we would call staging databases, basically mini databases, a curated set of data where business intelligence tools will be extracting the right type of information based on what we would hope a predefined set of metrics and KPIs that will actually be tailored for the governance that you're looking at. Obviously, if you're in the supply chain understanding, you will need a broad set of metrics. But maybe if you go to a board level, your metrics will might be a bit diluted in the number, but obviously focused on key aspects of productivity that program is there to support. So once you have a clear understanding of the KPIs and basically you've created a performance reporting framework, the business intelligence tool, together with the mock-ups that you would run to bring that intelligence to life, you will end up with a format that the board, the program, the project, the supply chain would all be comfortable with. And of course, there will be the continuous iteration as you move along to ensure that there will be improvements made as it tends to happen. But that will be, in a bit of a nutshell, a bit of a journey from a digital transformation. Of course, training and implementation that goes through it. The potential pilot projects will bring it to life as well.
I really like your detailed explanation. It shows that you've been in the depth of implementing digital transformation. So thank you so much for sharing the insights with us, Adrian. So going back to again the discussion you mentioned about the data warehouse, and you might have different vendors that you're
Yes.
extracting data with the BI tools, and so who is involved in, like, who is responsible for creating that integration from different platforms, different data sources? Is it how are you going to even do automation and like automated entry or integration so that you can have real-time reports, or we are not there yet? Can you share with us where we are in terms of the state of digital transformation and what would be the final outcome? Like, going through this extensive process, what would be the final outcome that we expect in our projects? I know you mentioned about the benefits,
Yes.
but what's the final outcome that we will see by going through this journey? I'm also curious to know how long that digital transformation journey took for you in terms of months. You mentioned the initial setup, like three
Yes.
months, I mean, to get the agreement. But after that, for implementation, I assume it's a multi-year program. But if you just share more light about the time that we need to invest for that, and
Yes.
also how the integration is done internally and who's responsible for that, I appreciate it, Adrian.
No, that's fine. It's an excellent question. So mapping a bit the timeline, and now I'll give you some averages. Yeah. So taking into account not a giga project, for example, but a client that has a certain legacy in the sense that they might have already some predefined existing systems, but they're in a state where there might be a two wanting to go to a four out of a 1 to 5 maturity scale. Let's just put it that way. So not that it's full inception, but a bit better in terms of capability at that point in time. So I would say that mapping it out from a vision perspective and capability assessment and the target operating model, which would be those building blocks that you need to put in place, those are probably a 3 to 4 months engagement where you would end up with the roadmap that will take you into an enablement of saying this would be the business case that we want to go forward with. Getting the commitment from the client that now we can embark on actually creating the requirements, understanding what would be the future system landscape and how we will end up integrating those various sets of data in systems. And then the actual implementation, it will obviously depend on whether it's, if it's a global company and they want to go full Monty, most likely they will end up doing, as I mentioned earlier in that example, pilot projects. Some companies might opt to be a bit more conservative and say, we will do one pilot project in one location, be able to implement and roll out the tool, roll with it one or two reporting periods, potentially the first reporting period in parallel with the old systems, just to see that the data elements of it are curated in the right way. And then once the lessons learned have been gathered from the first pilot project, potentially roll it out into other regions. Some clients would say, as it happened in the previous one, let's roll out three pilot projects in three different regions. We go in parallel. And though there will be challenges in terms of maturity in location A versus B versus C, we want to be able to move a bit at pace and roll it out like that. And in the end, once that blueprint is created and you have the lessons learned, obviously there will be a more mass rollout that will occur. And that mass rollout usually tends to occur once you have super users, you have people inside the client environment that are fully competent. The IT as well is well equipped now to engage with the vendors, potentially with the company that's hosting the data as a whole, and the different systems, and then be able to have a comprehensive training package. And what we've tend to do is, instead of creating laborious documents where you might have 150 pages of this is how you do in X particular system, an X particular service, what we tended to see is that by creating small bite-sized chunk videos, in a way modularized for particular tasks or activities within the ecosystem of what you've created within the program controls, will actually help the end users perform in a bit more methodical way the tasks and actually get to understand what they're doing. And then obviously once they've done it 2-3 times in 2-3 reporting periods, they're going to be able to just jump on a video on x in x second or x minute, just on a need to know basis, whenever they might feel that they need to jump again to it. But otherwise they will probably continue to implement it and get accustomed to the new ways of working. So that will be a bit of a journey that I would say would be some of the learnings and the takings we've done in the past in terms of timeline. And timeline for the implementation could be 6 months or even 1 year plus, depending on the number of pilot projects that the client, and together with ourselves as a consultant, and the vendors will end up agreeing on.
Very well said. Thank you so much, Adrian. And let me cover some of the great questions from the audience. We have just a few minutes left. So, you covered a lot of great grounds in terms of the implementation steps for digital transformation, which is really comprehensive. Thank you. Rashmi is curious to know if there is any white paper on the best practices for that successful implementation roadmap. So, do you know if there is anything available out there?
I think there are some white papers that we could look to potentially share. So there are things that we might have internally and as well from other companies. My suggestion would be, if Rashmi, you would like to get in touch, I'll see what we could share in terms of case studies, or something that can give you a bit of an insight on what we discussed about in terms of that end-to-end journey, and give you a bit of grounding on what would be the key steps to take on a digital transformation when embarking on a digital transformation.
Very good. Thank you. And how people can approach you, Adrian, through LinkedIn, I assume, right?
Yes, through LinkedIn. If you send me a message, I'll be happy to respond, and we can obviously deal with the questions as they come along. And if there have been questions, because I know a lot of people have interacted with us, and perhaps we didn't get the chance to respond, I'll obviously do my fair share of comments as well, Shore, on LinkedIn, to help the audience get the answers they're looking for.
Wow, that would be amazing. Thank you so much, Adrian. Just following Rashmi's question, I know also ACE International has recently, I think not recently, last year or so, have started the Digital Transformation Committee, as far as I know, and Lance Stevenson is behind that. So you may check that out and be part of that committee if that's something that you're interested in. So that's at least I know it's a
Yes.
committee is created within ACE International. So let me go through some more questions here. Yeah, we talked a lot about the benefits and showing the benefits of digital transformation, Adrian, as a way of selling that. And you mentioned don't have that vanilla layer benefit
Yes.
approach, just be deep into showing them what would be the outcome of that. So we have a question again by Donada, and then can you share with us statistics that support the benefits of digital transformation?
Yeah, so what we've done, for example, taking into account all of the functions that will be integrated in that digital transformation. Obviously, we spoke more about the program controls, but if the client's appetite would be for a digital transformation that links also, say, the BIM aspects of it to the building information modeling, so it could be linking the 3D environment to the planning, making it a 4D, or with the cost, making it a 5D. And nowadays, there's a quite a big hype on sustainability and how do you get carbon reduction and also measurable insights on that sustainability journey, which would be kind of the 6D on that component. We have created for each of the functions different, let's say, Q&A with the benefits associated that a particular individual that's in the commercial space or the finance space or the controls, or the risk or project management would usually have, and then what would be the answer that we would potentially support them with, obviously in the context of that industry, that sector, and the client environment, to help them understand what will be the benefits from their lens that they will be receiving on the business transformation standpoint. So if you're interested on a particular function, then Adab, just drop me a line and I'll be happy to share one or two sample questions, and as well some of the benefits that you could on average articulate for a particular function of interest.
That would be amazing. Thank you so much, Adrian. We have a big question here for you. So, I don't
Yes.
know the name here, but they want to know your insights on the current pain points on client side. Also, have there been differences implementing solution looking at stakeholders located within UK and now the Gulf that you're at? So, if there is any
Yes.
differences between the two, if you can shed more light on that, I appreciate it.
Yes. So starting now, there is I would say a big difference from the UK to the Gulf region, in the sense that the Gulf region, through the PIF, which is the main public body that holds the investments for all the giga projects, they are now creating what we call development corporations or development companies, which are basically entities that are there to deliver those successful outcomes related to a particular program of strategic importance. And basically those are companies that are set up from scratch. They are a legal entity with not a lot of processes, not a lot of governance and assurance, not a lot of organizational design, and definitely not a lot of technology, data, and systems. So you're in a position in some of these cases where you are able to really create from scratch, put those building blocks and hopefully what I said in terms of the methodology stemming from the vision, capability assessment, operating model, and then delivery of the transformation to good use, in a more of a virgin territory, where there's not a lot of legacy from that point of view, and you can actually start molding and building something that will be sustainable for the future. So that is one aspect. Whereas in the UK, obviously, the majority of the clients are pretty well established. They already have a lot of legacy, as I mentioned earlier. Though there might be on that journey, imagining that 1 to 5 default rating, there might be at the 2, there might be maybe inkling towards a 3 and wanting maybe to go to a 4. There obviously would be steps to improve their progression from a digital transformation standpoint, but there will also be a lot of legacy in terms of data, in terms of supply chain relationships, in terms of contractual and commercial mechanisms that you would need to sort through in order to ensure that you create something sustainable for the future again. So this will be one of the primary differences that I've seen.
Very good. Thank you so much, Adrian. Last question for you. So,
Of
for
course.
anyone who's been here, very eager to learn about digital transformation, I know it's kind of at the organizational level. It's not that easy as we figured out. It's a lot of steps that we need to follow. But as project professionals who are interested in making a change in the organization by introducing digital transformation or doing things better at what we do, what skills, first of all, we need to improve and how we can be part of or lead this movement in our organization? What is your advice for attendees?
Excellent question to close the stream. So I think the people aspect is truly very important. We're obviously working with let's say quite advanced technology aspects, and that require potentially a certain level of knowledge depending on where you operate across that digital transformation lens. Whether you're more of a business analyst that's able to gather requirements, prioritize requirements, and then translate them to both the vendors and as well act like an interface with the supply chain, or whether you're more of a tech individual that can actually maybe program something in a business intelligence tool, or maybe you're more of a generalist that understand processes. There are different facets that you tend to have from a technical perspective, but one single constant that I've seen is the fact that you need to take people on that journey with you. So being able to as I said, practice active listening, act with empathy. I think someone mentioned very well on the chat earlier on the emotional intelligence, being able to basically put yourself in someone else's shoes and then think about what they're actually saying when they're saying, look, I've seen this so many times. A lot of companies have come here. This will not work. So all of that negativity, if you really listen to it and understand the root cause of their concerns and challenges, and then as I said earlier, coupled with some benefits and outcomes, but from their lens in terms of the role they're playing in the business, that will take you a long way. And then of course understanding what's your niche around the digital transformation, whether you're a strategy and transformation individual that can take people on that journey from a transformational perspective, or you're more on the technical lens, being able to create potentially business intelligence aspects, or handle databases, or more the business analysis side of things. There's basically a role for everyone, but the most important thing is realize your own personal ambitions through what you want to do in your career, and that fundamental concept of taking people on the journey with you.
I love that final point, Adrian, taking people on the journey with you. So that's really good. Very good discussion, Adrian. We really appreciate you sharing your insights from your experience on implementing digital transformation projects. I just want a final reminder for everyone, we have a lot of sessions about digital transformation at our upcoming conference, Project Control Summit, next week. It's virtual, so everyone can join. So don't miss that out. We have several sessions, like 2 technology panels, one just panel on digital transformation, another on what is digital transformation, how the case study of how it has been implemented in the project. So don't miss those out for those of you who are interested. We have many sessions on this important topic. But special thanks to you, Adrian, for your time and for sharing your insights. And it was a wealth of knowledge you shared with us today. So thank you so much. And one last point, Adrian. So for people who wants to learn more about digital transformation or kind of reach out to you, in addition to LinkedIn, is there any other way to get hold of you or? Um,
So yes, you can use my email address, which is adrian.predoi@turntown.com. Happy to respond to any questions you may have there as well. The email address is on LinkedIn as well if you go on my profile and click on the information button. But I'll usually be quick to answer any questions you may have on LinkedIn as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, Adrian. And I think you will be checking the audience questions. We covered, I think, all the questions, but if there's anything missing, Adrian is kind enough to help you out.
Of course.
But thanks again, Adrian. Special thanks to everyone who tuned in from different part of the globe, joining us today to learn about digital transformation and being the change in your projects and organizations. A big shout out to all of you for showing interest on this important topic. And thank you so much for joining us today. So So next week is our big week. We are going to be very involved with our conference next week. 4,000 plus people already enrolled from 121 countries. So hopefully you're one of them, and we cannot wait to welcome you. But after that, kind of the next live session would be a week after the summit. So with another great topic, with another great expert. So I hope we can see you there too. But thanks to you, Adrian, for your time,
Thank
for
you
sharing
very
your
much.
expertise. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much, Adrian.
Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and best of luck as well with the Project Control Summit next week. I'm sure it'll be very insightful.
Yes,
Have a good
thank
one.
you. Thank you
Take
so
care.
much, Adrian. Special thanks to everyone. Bye for now.
Bye.